Hello and welcome to the Fulhamish podcast. My name is Sammy James. This is your weekly dosage of Fulham discussion. Farrell Monk is back.
Hey!
Nice to have you back, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
How's the leg?
Really swell, actually.
Swollen?
Not swollen.
Not swollen, swell.
Swelling, okay. Don Betts is here.
Yes, I've been on 3 weeks in a row.
Loving it. Loving the consistency of Don Betts' work. And Jack Collins is here.
Hello, listeners.
Secretary Jack.
Classic. Having a good time.
So I mentioned that this is your weekly dosage of Fulham discussion. Many Fulham fans would have needed a fairly hefty dosage after the antics this weekend in Newcastle. A stunning victory in the northeast, which followed a dramatic point against Leeds on Tuesday. We'll discuss both those games at length. We're all getting very, very excited in the studio. I'm sure you are as well. We'll also look ahead to the two crucial games at this week at the Cottage. The game in hand against informed Blackburn Rovers, and then another must-win against struggling Wolves. But first of all, your three-word reviews of the Newcastle game. Cyril Flynn, I love this one, said Nirvana on Tyne.
It's just a wonderful turn of phrase.
Lovely.
Massive.
Lovely stuff, Cyril. David Preston said, did Shelby play? In Tom Cairney's back pocket for most of the 90.
He did. He was just outplayed.
And then Ivan Berry, good old Ivan, said he's only 16.
That is true.
And we will come on to the starlet that is Ryan Sessegnon. So let's start off talking about Saturday's game against Newcastle. I mean, where to start, Jack? Where to start? What a game, what a performance, what a result. How huge a victory will this be for Slav and the boys?
Well, it's crucial, one, beating the league leaders and keeping that momentum going. Two, with all the other results going our way, obviously it makes everything so much more, important, and it makes everything sort of tangible. And I guess what it means is that it's all in our hands now, and the ball's very much in our court. And especially with Friday's game of Reading against Sheffield Wednesday and Leeds playing Brighton this weekend, it's just all sort of coming up to a point where we could find ourselves fourth on Saturday at 5 p.m, which would be, quite the turnaround from, the 2 weeks ago and everyone saying, it was too much, we're too far away. And so I suppose that in that sense, it's massive, and not much more can be said, really.
Farrell, how was your time in the northeast at Newcastle?
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Dreamland, I think I was saying at the time when it went 3-0 up. It couldn't have gone much better. and that's
just the Saturday night.
That was Friday night, even Friday night. Saturday morning I wasn't feeling too hot, but then it obviously got not gradually better, just instantly better.
Dramatically better.
It was drama, comedy all at the same time.
And for the second time in just a week, Cairney responsible for an absolute belter. Is there much that his left foot can't do these days?
Score a normal goal.
Yeah. He doesn't like those, does he?
Pass the ball 5 yards.
Oh.
I'm joking. It's a joke.
He can only score goals from about 30 yards out, it seems.
Exactly.
So.
Has he scored any without his left foot yet?
Well, no, he's one.
Doesn't have a right foot. He had a right foot if you're playing for Barcelona.
He stands on his right foot. That's about all he does. But an amazing, amazing goal. And called up to the Scotland squad today. Very deserved. Do we see him maybe breaking Scotland's duck in dreadful qualifying performances?
But knowing our luck, he's going to get injured in the friendly to Canada.
I'm a bit worried about that as well.
Because of all games, that would be the game he'd get injured in. Not even the qualifier, the friendly against Canada. But yeah, I don't know why he hasn't been in the squad, even over the last year or so anyway. Like, because McCormack never got any in the squad either. I'm pretty sure he slept with Strachan's wife, because there's no other reason McCormack obviously wasn't in the squad. But going on to Cairney, I don't know why it's taken him so long to get in there. If you think about, like, some of those players in that squad, they're not even, like, League 1, League 2 standard. Yeah, Tom Cairney has been overlooked for so long.
Well, they're Scottish League standard, aren't they?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Scott Brown has a better percentage passing rate than Iniesta in the Champions League group stages.
Oh, for God's sake. Yeah, but...
Just saying,
Always there for a Celtic-based stat at any moment. Now, you talked, Jack, in the preview ahead of the Newcastle game, how the key battle on the pitch would be that between Tom Cairney and John Joe Shelvey. John Joe Shelvey, anonymous for much of the game, some dreadful passes. He had a couple of efforts on goal, but nothing of note. And yet Tom Cairney, so influential in the middle. The range of passing, and then the goal just caps off a wonderful performance.
Yeah, a very complete performance from TC. And, moving on from the momentum that obviously he picked up at the end of the Leeds game and, going on to completely dominate the midfield. And I think, Shelvey's probably two most noteworthy contributions were the two quite cynical challenges on Cairney, which, to be honest, he didn't get booked for the first, he got booked for the second, but he was probably lucky to be on the field, given the first one was no one was quite sure how he got away with that tackle at the end of the first half without a booking. So, it was one of those where, we've seen Shelvey's quality this year in the Championship, and we've seen what he can do when he's, given free range to roam. And he was completely and utterly outshone, outclassed and outplayed, and it showed, and he lost his control, and we've seen him do that before as well. It's not, if Shelvey had a temperament, he'd be a Premier League player. And it's one of those things that he clearly doesn't like it when he's put in the shade, and his result to that was to lash out. And we've seen him be sent off this season before, and I think he was quite lucky not to face the same retribution again.
The amount of cynical challenges that went on from Newcastle against Fulham on Saturday was just testament to how good Fulham were. That we've absolutely frustrated them because they're not used to having so little of the ball to start off with. And the amount of times that we would tackle them when they think that they'd be in a good position, when they think, I've got the ball under control here, let's get our foot on it. No, we've got it back now. And that just showed the amount of times that we nabbed it off them. And the only way they can get near us was bringing us down, especially in that, until Daryl Murphy came on, they didn't really have a sniff. They had a few chances from set pieces, but that's about it, really.
I mean, it's the 35th game in a row that Fulham have had more possession in the league than their opponents. In fact, can you remember what that game was, the last time that Fulham didn't have more possession than their opponents?
Was it the Birmingham where we had 10 men?
No, it was the opening game against Newcastle. On the opening game of the season was the last time we didn't have more than 50% possession. But Newcastle have actually played quite a lot this season. You explained this last week, Dom, not having the majority of the possession. They're a team that play very well on the counter and also just so clinical, taking their chances that it doesn't really matter because they'll get 10 chances or whatever, but they've got someone like Dwight Gale up front who is such a good poacher. What do you think that Fulham did in defence, though, to stifle their attack, bar the one goal that did go in?
I mean, what a way to beat Newcastle, why it's a lot easier at their own ground, because as soon as they get it on the back foot or concede a goal, the atmosphere just turns toxic in that ground from a home fan's perspective. And you can tell that, like, a lot of fans were saying on Twitter, coming from Newcastle, that, yeah, we prefer playing away because there's not 50,000 people moaning for 90 minutes. Because unless they're winning 3-0 and have got about 65-70% possession, the fans don't seem to be happy.
I mean, it's stunning that they booed at half-time, 1-0 down. I mean, it wasn't the greatest performance, but they're top of the league.
Oh, it's madness, absolutely madness. We've touched on quite a few times about booing in stadiums quite down the years, and you know how much it makes my blood boil that even happens. So the fact I heard it at half-time was just, it made my blood boil. And it's not even my team or my fans.
But a great situation for Fulham to be in once you've silenced the home crowd to such an extent.
Yeah, I mean, that's what teams seem to do when they go to St James's Park, because I don't know what they are in now, but obviously we said they were 7th in the home table for this season. And then for a team who, on their day, you could argue are the best team in the league, that's quite shocking, really. Because didn't Blackburn do the double over them as well?
Yeah, they won 1-0 twice. The other thing is that the Newcastle reporter for the North East Chronicle said that it just described St James's Park as being shell-shocked. That was his kind of opening gambit of the first half an hour, and Newcastle didn't look like they had anything, able to deal with Fulham's sort of poise, pace and power. And it was one of those things that I think once you get on the back of those fans, they, especially because they believe they're a division below where they ought to be, and rightly so, having, because they almost certainly will go straight back up. But that as soon as they feel it tried to turn against a team who are obviously quite low below them in the league, if it was, I think it's a different thing if Brighton had gone there and dominated them, because, I suppose they must see them as kind of equals. Yeah. But for someone, in our position to go there and completely and utterly dominate them, and almost like a football schooling, it was obviously not something they were partial to witness.
One thing I will say, though, is that it is kind of plain to see that Newcastle are kind of choking. They are getting a little bit complacent, because I did see them against Brighton in that top of the table clash.
The luckiest goal of all time.
I think it's a beautiful finish.
Beautiful finish.
Sensational, absolutely sensational. But that's the only way they could actually win that game. They got a goal after that as well, but that was the only way they can get into the game.
They weren't even in the game up until that goal.
Not at all. And you can tell on Saturday that although Fulham were brilliant, every credit to them, Newcastle, their passing wasn't crisp, their movement wasn't crisp. I was surprised they put Gale straight back in, because he was kind of 50-50 whether he was going to play or not. And he did lack that yard or two of anticipation that, when I remember, that was one thing I picked out that first game of the season, that Dwight Gale's anticipation was just second to none. I hadn't seen a player like that for quite a while, that he seemed to know where the ball was going to drop before anyone else did on the pitch. And on Saturday, it just wasn't at the races. The only time that Newcastle got into the game was when Gale went off and Daryl Murphy came on.
It's a hell of a finish.
Yeah, it's
Daryl
a good finish,
Murphy.
yeah.
Well, that's what it was going to take for them to score, because apart from the couple which Dave Vetton sort of just palmed over the bar, they didn't really have any clear-cut chances.
No, and Jack quite rightly pointed out that about was it you, Dom, about their counter-attack and how crisp they are and how clinical they are. But it just shows testament not only to Fulham's passing game that we talk about quite often, it's just how quickly we can win the ball back. I would like to see a stat of how many times tackles are actually attempted and won in comparison to the other teams in the league.
I mean, we'll have to
have a look at that.
get Ben Jarman, the stat man,
Yeah.
on that next week.
At Sonic Kicks, we're after you.
Taking a well-earned break in Budapest, but you're back on stats jobs next week.
Yeah.
So the second half, I think Farrell described it perfectly with the word dreamland for Fulham fans. A mistake from Paul Dummett, which went to Aluko in the penalty box. Poor clearance from him. A lovely back heel from Aluko. But it's so smartly played by Ryan Sessegnon. The anticipation that Ryan saw, that he knew Sonny Aluko was going to back pass it. And then that finish as well. Taken like a striker with 10, 15 years experience. It was
clinical, absolutely clinical. Especially since it's not the most perfect pass in the world, but he's able to dig it out from directly under him and place it so perfectly that it's one of those ones where, Michael Owen was just the expert at, it's all about placement, not power. And that's all it was. It was just beautifully placed from such a difficult position.
I'm pretty much sure he scored more goals this season than Aluko has.
It's not surprising with Aluko.
he scored 6.
I think that's about equal.
But I was like...
I mean, certainly, though, your point is valid.
And it's clearly obvious he's not a left-back. It's been clearly obvious ever since he's come into the side that he's clearly a much more attacking player, and that showed. I mean, when I first saw the lineup, I was like, okay, what's going on? I was like, what I loved at Niskin Skabano as well, he was winning every header against their centre-backs. And what is he, like 5'8", 5'9"? Again, but I thought our best player in the game, bar Sessegnon, obviously, was Aluko. I thought Aluko had a great game on Saturday.
Well, I guess for Cabano, he got given that chance up front. And I don't know if Niskins prefers playing on the wing or prefers playing up front himself, whether he...
I think he said in his interview he prefers playing through the middle.
Okay, so he's clearly maybe been looking for a chance to play up front. He got that chance against Spurs. Vertonghen and Alderweireld just looking awesome that day. He didn't get a sniff.
Well, it is like the best defensive partnership in the country. So it was a bit, obviously, wasn't
Should have done better.
He should have done better, mate. Should have done better.
But you see what I mean? Now, he got his chance against a slightly lesser team, still a pretty impressive team, got Newcastle away. They haven't conceded a hatful of goals, and maybe showing that he's a different option through the middle.
Yeah, and another thing with Cabano is he didn't look that good when he first started getting into the side, a bit like Stefan Johansson, but he's grown into the team, and now he's one of our most key players to our promotion push.
And he's got the chant finally took off, Farrell.
Niskins Cabano.
Are you happy this took off?
Yes, absolutely. It's been taken pretty much since he first signed. I remember putting up on the WhatsApp group straight away. I was like, it's going to catch on. It's going to catch on.
I remember your second line's caught on.
Sorry?
I don't think your follow-up's caught on.
No, I know. It has changed. It's developing. It's developing.
We're building an entire song plus chorus plus verse.
Yeah.
And then the third goal, again, from Ryan Sessegnon. Lovely pass from Aluko, who with 2 assists in the game. Do you know what it reminded me of slightly? Diamanti Kamara away at Man City.
What? Sessegnon or?
The third Sessegnon goal, just the way it went through.
Right,
it was
sorry.
the ball behind the left back and the same kind of finish from the same kind of area.
It would have been great if he'd done the celebration as well. Like, a real student, a scholar of Fulham history, if he'd done the full celeb.
Was he even alive back then in the Great Escape?
No, probably not.
He was
God,
probably about 3.
he would have been. It was 2008.
8?
8 years old.
He would have been 8.
Not even 8. His birthday's in like July. I
Yeah,
think,
it would
so
have
he
been
was
7.
Oh,
Oh, that makes me sick in my
God.
mouth.
He's so good. He's actually so good. It's really, really upsetting.
But when
No,
that
it's
goal
not
went-
upsetting.
Well,
It's
no,
brilliant.
No, obviously it's great.
I've never been more confused when that goal went in. I was like, what is actually happening?
Yeah, what's going on?
Sessegnon scored 2 and we're 3-0 up at St James's Park. Seriously, what is going on?
Disbelieving joy, I would say it is.
Well, do you know what? I watched in the week when Fulham went up to Newcastle, and God knows how old Ryan Sessegnon was at this point, when we won 4-1. Quite a famous afternoon. It was a Sunday. I think it might have been 2004, because remember we were playing in that
In the blue.
light blue kit, which I never liked. That's the kind of Man City colour.
Oh, I like that kit.
Did you? Oh,
I've got one.
Have you?
Remember, it's a 125 year
Oh,
anniversary.
yeah, it was,
one.
wasn't it?
Oh, all the printing has fallen off. Though.
Ryan Sessegnon was 4.
No.
Ryan Sessegnon was 4.
And he still would have. He probably bagged a couple of goals then back then as well.
Classic. The BBC Sport description starts with Mark Crossley produced a virtuoso display of goalkeeping.
Is it the one when he saved it with his face?
Yeah, he saved it with his face, mate.
Yeah, it was.
Honestly,
Don't get me wrong, I know it's right.
Yeah.
But like, he scored 4 goals, and the entire first 3 paragraphs are just about Mark Crossley.
That's all you want to hear.
But it was such an opposite display of that. It was a great victory up at St James's Park, but this time we weren't hanging on. We didn't get lucky or fluky. Completely bossed it. It was just amazing to see.
And also, when I went to the last game at St James's Park, I think it was like in August of the season we went down, and we took about at least 3 times as more away fans as we did then on Saturday, because we had we had 3 blocks, I think, in the away section, and in 13-14 we only had 1, if that. So it shows that Fulham fans like it when we're doing well.
Shock horror.
Wow.
Shock horror.
Breaking news on the Fulhamish podcast.
Insight analysis from Dom there. And then at the end, what's happened with the penalty? Ryan Sessegnon won it, which it was a clear penalty. He was there ready to claim his hat-trick, and it was going to put the icing on the cake, a 4-1 victory. Little did it matter. I thought Ryan Sessegnon was going to take it, and I remember my first thought was, uh-oh. But then Tim Ream.
I think we just did it for banter, to be honest.
Do you think it?
I think it was just banter, to be honest. I don't think there's anything
Jokanovic
else
is
about
literally
it.
having a laugh. He's like, we're here. Who can I stick on this? That'd be funny. But like, Tim, miss it. Like, Tim, go and miss it. It'd be really funny. The fans will love it.
We've all been about, since the start of the season, we need to be more consistent, and we missed a penalty, so we're consistent.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a worse penalty live.
No, it was terrible. Just
Paul Merson's reaction on the television was something to
it
behold.
was so funny.
It was, he's missed it. He's just missed it. He's just missed it. I don't know why he's not giving it to the kid. He's just, I'm done. He just like walked off. And also then the Sky ticker went to 4-1 as well. So I was like, what is going on? I was like, I don't understand. But yeah, Merson was furious. Like, absolutely.
He was
livid.
like, he's letting Ream's taking it. I don't care. Don't come back to me. No, he's missed it anyway. Never mind.
I remember I played a Sunday league game years and years ago, and it was the last game of the season. They were top of the league, and they were very, very good, and they were 4-0 up, and they won a penalty in the last minute. And all 10 players that were on the pitch had scored a goal that season, except the goalkeeper. So they gave it to the goalkeeper in order that every member of the team could have got a goal in the season. My first thought was, is Slav trying to do that?
Well, I think
But Tim Ream scored.
Yeah.
Gianluigi Buffon, would have buried it into the back of the net.
The thing that I said earlier, and I made a point about, was that I can't understand. I get not giving it to Sess for a number of reasons. He's had an unbelievable game, and all of those things. If he'd missed it, it could have knocked his confidence. All those kind of things, right? I know it doesn't matter to him at the end of the day, but it's another person that actually is off the penalties list.
Yeah.
Whereas Ream, I suppose, is just one of those players where if he misses it, does it matter? Not really. It's our centre-back. But Syriac's on the pitch, right? When we signed Syriac, there was actually a video of him taking penalties. Like, as in, it was one of the things they were like, oh, look, our new number 9 can take spot kicks. And I remember thinking at the time, why have they not given the ball to Syriac? He's a striker coming on. We're making a late push for the playoffs. Bear in mind, I know Martin didn't play, but if we are going to go back to a striker system, we've got Derby in a couple of weeks where Martin can't play. We're still unsure if he's actually eligible for the playoffs. But we're not sure. No one's sure if Martin can play in the playoffs.
We covered that. He's playing in disguise.
But you know what I mean? It's one of those things where why have we not just given the ball to Syriac and be like, stick it away, get on the mark, get off the mark, and, you know, and let's get you up and running. So then when you come on next time when we're chasing a goal, you've already got one in your locker. You're not looking to break the duck.
But then if you look at players like, I don't think scoring a penalty does that much to your sort of open play confidence too much. But I would say that under different circumstances where we had been putting our penalties away all season, Sessegnon would have definitely taken it. But we do have this, you know, problem that has been irking us all season.
I've actually lost count. How many is it?
Eight in 10.
I thought it was 9. I was like, I don't know.
Both of the scored ones are from mine, right?
Yeah. And so we do have this problem. And so obviously Jokanovic went, well, obviously our next person was going to be Ream. He's probably been putting them away in training and whatnot. He's going to be our designated penalty taker if he gets this one away.
Maybe the goal was like 2 foot wider in training, because if it had been, it'd be a lovely penalty straight into the corner.
I don't know. It's just one of those really odd things. Is it right for Sess not to take that penalty? Probably. Like, if actually we're thinking about it with like a sensible kind of head-on kind of, let's keep building his confidence up and up and up and not give him any opportunities to, like, you know, if he'd missed it, he's going to be thinking about, I could have had a hat-trick at St. James's Park. I missed that. I think it's not the worst decision in the world. I just don't understand why we haven't given it to a striker.
If he had scored a hat-trick, he would have been the youngest ever player to score a hat-trick in the English League.
Really?
Give him the penalty.
Just for the stats of all time.
Yeah.
Who scored? I think Gillingham scored more penalties on Saturday than Fulham have this whole season.
Yeah, they got a hat-trick. The one bloke put all 3 away.
Yeah, hat-trick of penalties.
Can we sign him up?
Yes. So, great results elsewhere. Reading lost against Preston pretty comprehensively. Horrible place to go, Preston, at the moment. I'm very glad we played them early in the season when they hadn't found that home form.
Yeah, when we scored those 2 absolute wonder goals. Aluko specifically. Aluko's goal was the best thing I've seen this season.
Well, I don't know about after Matt Smith miss. That Matt Smith miss after Cairney skinned the entire field. I think that's up there with the best things that's ever happened in a Fulham shirt.
Go on, it's on a plate. Oh, no. Oh, he's got it in.
Sheffield Wednesday lost to Aston Villa.
Brilliant result. And Sasso's banned for a couple of games. Sasso was really starting to find some form.
And then Leeds drew 0-0 with Queen's Park Rangers. I tweeted at the end of the game.
Bad result. That's a really bad result. Sorry.
Apparently QPR should have won the game as well.
QPR absolutely battered them as well, like as in start to finish.
I tweeted at the end of the game that if Queen's Park Rangers go on and get a winner here, I might spontaneously combust, because it just would have been the perfect days of perfect days if Leeds had managed to lose. But even so, a draw is an amazing result. We're now just 6 points behind Leeds, 4 points behind Reading, and 2 points behind Sheffield Wednesday. Am I correct?
Yeah.
With the game in hand, which we'll come on to, which is tomorrow night. Just a little interesting note. A public service message of the potential playoff dates. Am I jinxing stuff to talk about this?
Just in case.
This is just in case.
Get ready to put them off work.
Get ready to put them off work.
It's bank holiday weekend for a start.
Just like, just maybe
Tuesday.
put them in the diary as a thing that, we might be there, we might not, but, you're probably going to watch them either way.
Yeah.
So the playoff final is Monday the 29th of May, which is a bank holiday Monday over here in the UK. And then the semi-finals likely to be the 12th to 16th of May. But I did find somewhere else on Twitter that all the EFL have said at the moment is that it will be between the 11th and 20th.
Yeah, because it changes every year. Sometimes they're in the space of a week, sometimes they're in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, so it doesn't really.
So last year,
consistent.
If we were to finish 6th, we'd have played on the Friday night and then on the Tuesday. So Friday night at Craven Cottage and then Tuesday night away. And then if it had been 5th versus 4th is normally on the Saturday. That's if they go for the same thing as last year. Anyway, I just thought I'd put it out there.
I probably jinx it every year because I look it up. I already know I'm not here for the first leg because I'm at a wedding.
I've got a wedding that I'm working out ways, scheming ways.
You're going to try and break them up?
Yeah, basically.
I haven't got any weddings. No weddings for little old me.
I'm going to call up and pretend to be an estranged lover from like 5 years ago. Oh, yes, on holiday. Yeah.
Well, I hope it doesn't happen the last time I went to a wedding on the same day as a Fulham game, because that was the day we got relegated, which was...
Was it a good wedding at least?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it couldn't have been a better place, because I was immediately focused on having a brilliant a time as possible so I can forget about the football.
I was going to say, if it was a really dry wedding or something, he got relegated.
Yeah.
That's about as bad
and
as
if the wedding was in Stoke as well, I mean, that was...
it was only about 20 minutes from Stoke in a place called Tamworth.
Oh, I've been to Tamworth. I need to change to go to Burton, but, you know.
Changed on a train to Tamworth once before as well, but not to go to Burton, unfortunately.
We have the most cutting-edge topics.
Yeah, we really, really do. So let's move on. In the week, we witnessed one of the greatest sporting comebacks of our time. Tom Cairney's 95th minute equaliser against Leeds United to rescue a point in a game that should have comfortably been all three. Speaking of three, Jack, what were the 3-word reviews against Leeds? I'm branching this out.
A couple of 3-word reviews. I liked Bobby Garofalo. Apologies if I've said that wrong.
Wow, that's a name.
Naming kid Tom. Cabana Rama, great name.
Yeah.
Cairney hates Leeds. And Kevin Park, who's much easier to say. Thanks, Kev. Worth getting booked was my personal favourite. Although Chris Gilbertson did add Phantom Goal Justice.
Ooh.
Well, I don't think it was justice, because justice would have been getting 3 points. It was an unbelievable decision. But anyway, moving on to it, a real test against a side that have been well organised and very difficult to beat this season. Big atmosphere. There were 7,000 Leeds fans there. I thought that the home fans, not just for the goal, were in great voice on Tuesday night in general. They seemed to really rise to the occasion and try to match. I thought the Leeds fans, I thought it was a better atmosphere than I've seen many a time in the last few seasons. But Dom, a disastrous start. Tim Ream with a terrible slice, wrong-footed button. I assume no blame can be laid.
No, I don't think he could do that again if he tried. Really, because the way it just sliced his foot straight into the goal, I was like, well, that's just Leeds getting lucky as always. But yeah, I mean, as you said with home atmosphere, I think it was a great atmosphere because I'd argue it's our biggest game in the cottage since we've come down.
I don't think anyone could argue against that, really.
That's a good call, really.
Because, as I said, obviously the big games are getting points off teams around us, because it means they're dropping points as well. And I know we didn't really catch up any points on Leeds. Luckily, obviously, the other results went for us that night as well, but Leeds didn't exactly get any further away from us, which was a good thing.
I would also say it's because we played so bloody well. Up until Newcastle, and I would actually, thinking about it, I would say that was our best performance of the season against Leeds. We made them look so ordinary. A team that have done so well this season. Admittedly, I didn't have Chris Wood available, but we gave them nothing, absolutely nothing. I mean, possession stats and all the stats you can actually look up against a team who, were they third in the league at the time? Fourth in league? It was just incredible. They could not get the ball off us. We were creating chances. We were creating opportunities at will. They couldn't hold on to the ball for more than 5 seconds at a time. It was just absolute relentless pressure, and that's probably led to the fact why the atmosphere was actually really good on Tuesday night.
That and all the clapping practices that Fulham have been having with our special
the clappers.
You know, they had a clapper practice on Monday night.
Quick poll: do we like the clappers or not?
No.
Of course we don't.
Oh, good. Thank God you said that.
Ridiculous question. Does anyone like the clappers?
Was it you I was talking to about the clappers? How I wouldn't mind if only like juniors.
Yeah, we were having this discussion. If they gave a good a serious clapper, a wooden one, to all the kids on an under-18 season ticket, no mentions, and but also, you know, then the kids could make a lot of noise. You know, the kids would be able to make, you know, their fair share of clappy noise. Everyone would be happy, and everyone else could actually clap their hands.
And the actual
like
adults can do the singing.
Yeah, I mean, or just clap. I don't mind. If you just want to clap, that's fine. Just use your hands.
I do find the clappers actually kind of, I mean, they do drown out the singing a little bit, and it is a kind of a case of you do see grown adults slapping some cardboard against their hand.
One of my favourite things this season was a Preston fan commenting on the, you know, obviously when they play the Bolero song before kickoff. Yeah. They were like, all the Fulham clap their clappers together to a weird tune in some sort of ritual. I was like, yeah, quite funny. I do love that tune. It is a classic tune.
I don't think any more cardboard has flown around when Cairney's goal went in.
It does look quite good for that. That is potentially the only saving grace.
So let's not call them clappers anymore. Let's all call them
chuckers.
Yeah.
Cardboard confetti.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
But anyway, I actually thought Fulham were a little bit sloppy in the opening 50, and I think we actually struggled to deal with going 1-0 down. It couldn't have gone any worse to start, really. Against a side like Leeds, who are difficult to break down, it was possibly the worst thing that could have happened, which I know is fairly obvious that conceding a goal was the worst thing that could have happened, but certainly against a side like Leeds, we did really struggle to get into it. But then we did score an equalising goal, a brilliant shot from Neeskins Cabano, a very good effort, was fairly evidently over the line if you weren't in the Hammersmith end. I can't admit to say I saw it from H2, but I saw the reaction of the players, and you saw it pretty clearly from the replay.
It was basically hitting the back of the net.
My dad was pretty convinced that he'd seen it go over the line from mid H5.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, I'm pretty sure that's in. And I was like, are you just saying that? He was like, no. He's like, I've seen them happen. He's like, I'm pretty sure that one's in. This was way before. This was literally at the time. And I was like, I don't know if you can see that, mate.
I mean, the amount of times you see the most blatant fouls on the planet from Fulham players, and the referee gives it and they go, what? Never. He didn't touch him.
But could you see it from your seat in the Johnny Haynes foul?
Admittedly, nah, not really. You can't make a decision from that far away.
It was quick as well.
It's quick,
Yeah.
It happened at severe pace. You can only really see it on the Sky thing when you slow it down to about 0.25 times.
Yeah, I mean, I got up and went, yay! And then went, oh.
Or the bloke in the Riverside who filmed it, who couldn't have been in a better position to film it, literally right on the goal line.
Does he work for Hawkeye or something?
Oh, you'd wonder, don't you? It was unbelievable placing for it, and happen to be filming it as well. There's not much debate here. We all know that goal line technology is a good thing for football. It's worked well in the Premier League. Apparently it's coming to the Championship next year.
Yeah,
well, we've got it, we just can't use it.
Yeah, we were the first ground in the country to install Hawkeye, actually.
What,
Really?
so it's installed in our ground?
Yeah, we just can't use it.
We're not allowed to use it in the Championship.
Goodness me.
In fairness, it did save us a goal against Blackburn last year.
Oh, yeah.
And it all happens at the Putney Ends, though, instance. That was at the Putney End, obviously.
David Healy's
Tuesday was the Putney End, and yeah. David Healy, has he scored? He's running away. I don't know. Is it a goal, Jeff? I don't know. Possibly the greatest Soccer Saturday moment of all time. It was actually worth not drawing that game, I think, just for Chris Kamara's amazing rant on Soccer Saturday there.
Could be not.
It means we wouldn't have stayed up on goal difference on last game of the season either.
Sorry?
We wouldn't have stayed up on goal difference on the last day of that season either. Because it was 07-08.
Oh, yeah, we did, yeah.
Goodness.
There we are. Everything happens for a reason, folks.
So Fulham continued to push for an equaliser. Ryan Sessegnon made a good impact when he came on for Malone on the left, who was having a bit of a shocker in the second half.
That's a nice way to put it, I guess.
It just was one of the worst individual performances. It wasn't even just the first half. It was the second half. It was in the first half as well. I think my favourite moment of the first half was when Cabano skinned a man and then knocked the ball back to Malone, and he just tried to do the same thing and kick the ball out of play. And I was like, I mean, just if anything sums up Fulham, that's it, isn't it? But yeah, he was having an absolutely disastrous 10 minutes. I think he tried to put in 4 crosses and miskicked 2 behind the goal. One into the first defender, and the other one just sort of went straight to the keeper. And it was like, I'm not sure what Malone is trying to do here, but it was a good decision that from Slavisa, and another tactical masterstroke, some would say. And Sess, as soon as he was on, was right in the thick of it and straight in behind the Leeds defence. So,
what did we make of Syriac for Chris Martin? For me, offered fairly little going forward until that header right at the end.
I think he's just a 2-striker sort of player. I think he needs someone to work off instead of being solo down through the middle. I think if he was up front with Chris Martin, he might work a little bit better in a system like that. But clearly, the system that works best for us is a 4-2-3-1. So
he does offer a bit of an aerial threat. That is,
he can jump very high.
Yeah, he's really good at jumping.
That was an amazing jump.
He's had a couple of those.
He's gone to the Chris Baird school of jumping.
He has a severe leap on him, and maybe that's what we need to do with him on the pitch. That's not something we're.
He just keeps jumping up and down.
Yeah. You stay in the middle.
On the last man.
You stay in the middle there, Chloe. Yeah, he definitely. Maybe we need to play some more lofted balls with Syriac on the pitch. Then maybe that will. Work in our favour.
A surprisingly better target man than Matt Smith.
Yeah, very strangely. But yeah, I thought he wasn't awful. I thought he made a couple of clever runs off the back, and he does have that kind of off the last man thing that we don't have very often, and we're often very. The way that we play is very, side to side, and we look for an opening for ages and stuff. And I think he's just a bit more direct than we are, and he's looking for that ball straight through to run onto.
Maybe that Tuesday night game just wasn't the one suited to him.
Yeah.
He was certainly lively. He did see a little bit of the ball, not as much as we would like to, but perhaps a more open game like Newcastle on Saturday probably would have suited him more. I wouldn't say that we should have started him by any stretch of the imagination, but... speaking of which, a bit of a surprising one that Odoi started over Fredericks, which was interesting.
We've discussed this before, that Fredericks occasionally just needs a game off.
Yeah.
Because against Leeds, we had this discussion. He was good defensively, but I thought he offered absolutely nothing going forward. And he really wasn't the kind of potent attacking weapon. And we've said this in last week's podcast against Preston as well. He wasn't that kind of dynamic, incisive force down the right, and he was always looking for the short pass rather than the kind of the Frederick shuffle as we once coined it. He's not been looking for that. He's not really been looking to beat the man and get round him, and I think maybe we'll see that against Blackburn on the weekend. Now he's had a game off, just to see him start to develop that kind of incision again and let him rest and recuperate and recover.
You just hope he doesn't turn into a bit of a flat track bully.
Maybe. I don't mind him being a flat track bully. He's quicker than everyone else.
Yeah, but just not, doing it in games where he's got, a left back he knows he can beat. But certainly on Tuesday, I thought he looked like he lacked the confidence or the belief that he was going to get round.
See, that's the strange thing, because their left back was their second choice left back. If I'm not incorrect, it was because Luke Ayling was out injured.
Yeah. I can't remember who came in for him, though.
Yeah, I don't think it was anyone particularly poor. I think they've got a couple of quite good, fullbacks on rotation, like, in the same way that maybe we do. But it was one of those where he just didn't look like he was up to it for all of a sudden. So perhaps that was the reason he took a rest on Saturday.
Indeed. And the Phillips red card in the 90th minute certainly had an impact. Leeds seemed far more open in that 5 minutes. It was a bit of a shame the red card didn't come a little bit earlier. We'll come on to Cairney, but there was a few chances in that 5 minutes for Fulham. It did change the game, in my opinion. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I just felt like we were going to score as soon as they went down to 10 men. I feel like with 11 behind the ball, we were going to be so hard to get through them. But as soon as it went down to 10, I just felt we're going to get an equaliser here. If we get it early enough, we could possibly get 2.
I couldn't believe Johansson's free kick got saved. I was like, he's going to curl this top bins, and then he did, and I was like, oh my god, he's done it. Green came out of nowhere. Also, I've got the pillar in front of me in the middle of the block, and it literally Rob Green came from nowhere. I was like, so upsetting.
What? They've got no goalkeeper in.
Luco also went very near with a kind of similar shot to Cairney's from that left-hand side that just went inches wide about 45 seconds before. And then, right, let's come on to it.
Let's do it.
The moment of moments. Tom Cairney with the money shot found some space in the Clint Dempsey area, as I like to think. That little patch just in front of the penalty box on the right-hand side of the penalty box. And what a goal. What can be said that hasn't already been said about this goal?
Not much, really. As soon as he's left his foot, it's in.
Oh, it's just incredible.
I was still looking like the offside flag. I was like, this is somehow going to be disallowed for some reason of some sort. And I was like, oh, it's gone in. I mean, I was probably lying on the H5 stairs at this point, but I was still pretty much sure there was going to be a reason why we weren't going to get that equaliser.
1 week after my knee surgery, I managed to find the strength to climb up onto the Johnny Haynes wall and start celebrating.
A bit like Ryan Fredericks was on the advertising boardings.
Yeah.
With your crutch in the air. I mean, I haven't seen scenes like that in,
years.
Since we came down?
Before, probably.
I say since Hamburg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just incredible.
I mean, I just literally almost broke down in tears. I was just so pent up and angry about the whole game. Like, I was sending all these angry tweets, being like, "We're not going to score in a million years." and also, I was really angry with Rob Green, so I tried to go down to the front to abuse Rob Green, but I got stopped by like a mass of people, obviously 30 rows back, and I was like, obviously, I'm not going to get anywhere near him. I was just there on the stage in the middle of the steps, like sort of shouty crying at people.
I can imagine you getting closer and closer to Rob Green and going, oh, he's actually quite big. He's a goalkeeper.
He's a
and then
big
just
bloke.
retreating.
No, I think, Hamburg is a good shout, Dom. I don't think we've seen, and off the back after the game, the whole walkway off the back of the Hammersmith end was completely and utterly like just deadlocked.
Yeah.
And with people singing, and there was the goal was up on the screen.
Everyone just kept waiting.
Everyone would be like, "Oh," and I just kept playing the replay.
Everyone was going ooh for about like 3 or 4 highlights before.
Yeah, exactly. Like Luca's chance, and everyone was like, "Oh!" But no, it was it was just really, really good and happy. And some bloke literally turned to me, a bloke with his arm in a cast, and he just turned to me and he went, "Haven't seen scenes like this since Juventus, mate." And then I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Oh, I'm really emotional. Don't mess with my emotions right now."
Did he celebrate that hard? He broke his arm.
Yeah, no, he was like in a cast and he was like, "I'm pretty sure I knocked a few people out." I was like, yeah, fair dues. I probably wouldn't have been able to go.
Yeah.
This was my question here. Will this go down as one of those all-time Fulham great moments that we'll be talking about in another 10, 15 years?
I think it will if we go up.
Okay, interesting.
If we don't, it'll
It'd be just another good Fulham goal.
Absolutely agree with that.
if we go up, it will go down as in history as a big moment in our club this specific season when we're going up. I mean, yeah, if we don't go up, I just think it'll be remember that great home celebration.
But could it be a turning point in this season? Or maybe not a turning point because... But could you have seen this season maybe going differently had that goal not gone in? It would have been a real confidence knock. It would have been really hard to take for the players. And who knows what the results on Saturday would have been had we not got that equaliser. But it did just feel at the time like, oh my God, this team's got something really special about them.
No, I knew beforehand because if you remember my prediction table, I had Fulham finishing on 90 points.
Yeah,
it's still on. It's still on. I was confident it's happening, and it's still going to happen even before that goal.
Yeah, I think it's a momentum thing. I think that's the moment that we're talking about here. Is without that goal, we're 9 points behind Leeds, 6 behind Wednesday. It's one of those things where we then have to go to Newcastle and win. And I think part of the fact that we've gone up there with no fear at the weekend is because we were on such a high. And we put it in the match preview. If we looked at it, that we said that the fact that goal is something that changes what would have been such a devastating defeat, considering we actually scored a goal. Like, it's a devastating defeat to a jammy own goal and a disallowed goal to a team that were around the 7 level us, but we dominated for 90 minutes and the possession stats. And it's another one where, you look back at those games just before Christmas where we didn't pick up quite as many points as we wanted to despite dominating games. And you had players like Fredericks and Cairney coming out and saying, we're still going, we're still looking for it, but, it's frustrating and we know we need to do the business now. And that's what it is. That is the business. That is at the point where it needed to happen. It happened for once, and I suppose that's what it is, because then you go into the Newcastle game going, yeah, come on then.
Yeah.
And suddenly,
I still thought we needed to win it at Newcastle because I think that's because I said beforehand I was like, we need 4 points from the next 2 games because yes, the 3 games afterwards all should be 9 points, but I thought we still playing catch up here. We need to get ahead. I know 2 points at home to Leeds and away to Newcastle is still a good enough
result,
return.
yeah.
I still thought we needed 4 points from those 2 games.
Well, you were the one that said that you thought that Newcastle was going to be an easier game than Leeds at home, and thus it transpired.
Yeah, just because Newcastle would be under pressure so much at St James's Park. They always are. And Leeds, you sort of knew they were going to be sitting back with 2 banks of 4.
I wouldn't say that the Cairney strike has kind of changed much because we play every single game the same way in terms of level of performance, I find.
Yeah.
And I still think that even if we lost that game against Leeds, it wouldn't have changed much. We wouldn't have changed. We still would have been confident considering how well we played against Leeds, and it's hardly surprising. And obviously it would have made our job of getting to the playoffs a little bit harder. But it still meant that we were still in the race. It was just meant that we didn't pick up that 1 point that would have made that much of a difference, because it's not like we want to take points probably more off Reading or
Sheffield Wednesday.
Or Sheffield Wednesday.
I think it would have secured Leeds' spot almost. That's what I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
It would have. Now there are still. I think Huddersfield are too far away. There are 4 teams playing for 3 spots. Whereas I think if
Now
Leeds
we're going automatic promotion.
yeah, fair enough. I think if Leeds had won that game, it would have been. It's still 3 teams going for 2 spots, but there's already 2 locked down, and there's less chance. Then 2 and 3 is less than 3 and 4 is all.
But we have seen being in the Championship how quickly things can change.
Yeah,
and we saw on Saturday how the teams around the results went our way, and also again on Tuesday, the results seemed to go our way as well. Whereas it wasn't just us pulling off results. If the teams in the playoff positions won all their games while we were picked up the points as well, we still would have been in the same position we were before.
I mean,
wouldn't
we'd be going up if we didn't have to play Birmingham or Brighton. So, I mean, that's automatic because they're the only teams we seem to lose against.
Yeah.
there was a point last week where we were talking about the Leeds game and how important it was in terms of Leeds' kind of next 7 games when we were discussing the playoff run-in. And one of the things we said was that if we put 3 or 4 past Leeds, it could put a real dent in their confidence and really make them suffer. And then their next 7 games could have a knock-on effect from that. And, we could see them maybe falling apart. And I think what that goal might have done is exactly that effect, but without obviously so what we said was that a big win would do that. But I think they're kind of losing a last-minute equaliser as well when they defended actually heroically quite a lot of the game. They really had put in a good defensive shift, Leeds. For them to concede last minute and lose a player, and Calvin Phillips got banned for 2 matches automatically because he'd already been sent off this season, and all of those things combining, and now you see them slip up at home to QPR, and QPR are a side I'm glad we don't have to play again. They're second in the form table in the last 6 games behind us, and really Warnock's got playing a real style of football that suits the team and things. And I think if he stays there and he stays the team as it is, they could be a real force to be reckoned with next year.
You mean Holloway?
Sorry.
Close.
Yeah,
close.
Same,
Used to be Warnock.
Same drill. Yeah. Horrible managers with horrible teams.
It's easy to get them mixed up.
Yeah, both. I'm not going to go there.
So, Dom, let's get your prediction crystal ball out then, as you were so spot on for Leeds and for Newcastle last week. We've got 2 big games, 2 very different games coming up, both at the Cottage. First of all is Blackburn, the game in hand tomorrow night as we speak. Blackburn struggling in the league, but starting to find a bit of form now. Unbeaten in 5. Might not be an easy time to face Blackburn.
I think what we need in this game is an early goal. If we get a goal in the first 20, 25 minutes, I don't know if that's early, but...
We love goals. We love goals in the first 25 minutes now. We love them.
It's literally ever since we mentioned how we don't score in the first 30 minutes.
Game.
Yeah, every game now.
Our Leeds it. But...
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we actually did.
Because if we don't score in the first half, let's say, they can just sit back with 2 backs of 4. I presume they play 4-4-2. They sound like a generic Championship team.
They are a 4-4-2 side,
And then they'll have to sort of come at us because they need to get points to stay up.
And they've got a couple of... just Danny Graham loves playing against Fulham. It is a bit of banana skin.
If Luca Zhao, who's on loan from Sheffield Wednesday, he's a bit of a player. I don't like that he's...
I don't want to hear about his personal life.
Yeah, fair enough. Oi, oi. No, but, he came on at the weekend and scored 2 against Norwich. He's a decent player. He scored, I think, his sort of claim to fame moment was getting 2 against Arsenal in the FA Cup. If anyone remembers that game where Wednesday knocked Arsenal out.
Yeah, in the League Cup.
Yeah, he scored 2 in that game. And they've also got Marvin Emnes, who apparently is just doing bits on his own for Blackburn and just scoring ridiculous silky solo goals and stuff. So, there's players there that can do damage, and I don't think that Fulham can be complacent about this whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got experienced squads. They're now starting to settle because, Tony Mowbray came in partway through the season and kind of stopped that rot for a little bit. And then they've been they've hit some poor form, and now they're starting to get, they're now, you say unbeaten in 5 or 6 now.
5, I believe.
5, that they're now starting to pick up a little bit. So it is certainly one that we need to be wary about. And these are the type of games that we need to start picking points up again, because remember that early part of the season where we were facing these teams and it just wasn't happening for us, maybe because we weren't scoring in the first 30 minutes. And they have got some good players. I noticed that I didn't even realise that they signed Wes Brown.
What?
He's still playing football?
Yeah.
No chance. They don't. Surely he doesn't play anyway. They've got the only centre back in the league who scores free kicks on a regular basis. Charlie Mulgrew.
Oh, yeah.
Ex-Celtic.
So, yeah, I was going to say, I wonder how he knows that one.
Absolute wand of a left peg, Charlie Mulgrew, great player.
It's like the Ian Hart kind of
that
mould.
school. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, he was a wing back and now he is fully developed into centre back. They have Craig Conway as well, he's a good player. Ben Marshall left and he went to Wolves, I think. So
You've also got Danny Guthrie, who I didn't think was
that bad for Fulham.
No, it wasn't.
I didn't think so. He seemed to get a lot of stick for some reason, but I thought he was actually all right. He did a job.
It was a weird loan, wasn't it? He only played 3 or 4, brought in March or whatever it was. Some of their results as well, Blackburn, the teams they've picked up a few points against are quite, they've picked up points against Cardiff, who are on good form under Neil Warnock. They drew against at Norwich, who I know are not doing too great. But
I mean, Norwich were down to 10 men after 20 minutes, and I did see the highlights from that one, and Norwich had considerable amount of chances. When you think they were down to 10 men
But still, they're there. They know how they've frustrated them, and you just hope it's not a repeat.
They've got Hope Akpan in the middle as well. Remember him?
Yeah.
Is he an Arsenal?
No, that's Chuba Akpom.
Oh, sorry.
No, Hope Akpan was ex-Everton. He played a couple of games for Everton in the Premier League, and then he went to Reading for a while, I think.
Oh, he's like a proper journeyman, isn't he?
He's quite young still. He's done a bit of the rounds. He's a big unit, and he covers a lot of rounds. A bit of a Dixon Atuhu kind of esque figure.
Oh, right.
He sort of makes up ground, makes tackles. I think I've put him as our key battle against Steph Joe.
You have indeed.
For the preview, if you haven't checked that out, www.fulhamish.co.uk. And
and you've also gone for a 3-1 home victory, so very much hoping that comes to light. Go read Jack's article now, www.fulhamish.co.uk. And then on Saturday, the day after Paddy's Day, so Jack might be a little bit sore.
Legend.
We face Wolves at the Cottage. Now, unlike Blackburn, they're not on quite such good form. I mean, they were looking good January, February. I thought Paul Lambert got them playing a good style of football. They obviously went up to Anfield. Richard Stearman scored. They scored another one on the break.
He can't play, can he? He's on loan.
He's on loan, yeah.
Yes, good point.
Excellent.
Good point. Forgot about that, my God.
All the agents doing bits.
Yeah. Hadn't won in 6 before Saturday's win over struggling Rotherham, who must be not far off mathematical relegation. I think it's 14 points they are adrift, so it can't be only a few weeks
Pretty
before.
woeful, isn't it?
There's 9 games left, isn't there?
I mean,
We've got 10. Everyone else has 9.
We could relegate them because we play them pretty soon, don't we?
We played them on the 1st. So it's our 3rd game.
Yeah, that is feasible that it could be that kind of time by then.
Maybe.
We'll have to defend, though, much better than our last visit to Molineux. An incredible game. Don't get me wrong, it was entertaining, but some of the defending on show that day was fairly woeful. We'll have to
Some of the goals were good, though.
Oh,
I remember the Cairney one.
I mean, Tom Cairney loves scoring great goals, but...
Tom Cairney only scores great goals. He doesn't score tap-ins. Have you ever seen Tom Cairney score a tap-in?
It's like, remember Luis Garcia for Liverpool? He only ever scored good goals. Or non-goals, as the semi-final goal against
Chelsea. No, that was definitely over the line.
I saw a quote from someone the other day. It was actually about Hal Robson-Kanu, but we'll use it for Tom Cairney today. It was not a great scorer of goals, but a scorer of great goals. And I was like, yeah, very good. Very good.
All right, so we're nearly running to the end of the podcast. Still some time, though, for your questions, as always. Jack's been checking the post bag. What's been coming in, Jack?
We've got quite a lot of questions, actually, so thank you all for responding. We're not going to necessarily respond to all of them today. We haven't got time, but we've hopefully answered a few of them during the course of the show. The first one we're going to go for is something we haven't actually touched on yet, and this is from Kyle Mattin, who says, with Derby changing managers again, would Chris Martin still be eager to return, or will he stay at Fulham, promotion or otherwise?
I would say he's kind of burned his bridges on both sides, really. He's going to... He'd have to force his way back into the squad at Derby. I think he'd be quite reluctant to stay at Fulham. He's probably going to end up moving to another promotion hopeful next season, I would imagine.
I mean, the whole thing is just the funniest thing in the world. And I hate laughing when someone's like lost their job, but it is just the funniest.
When I found out via a WhatsApp on a group, I couldn't write any more ha 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 ha's, and so it filled the whole screen.
I mean, the whole thing. It's amazing though how that's transpired, because Derby looked unstoppable, and then they've just gone on this horrendous run of form.
Yeah, but knowing Derby, it's going to reappoint Steve McLaren anyway.
What, go for a third time?
His last 3 sackings, 2 of them have been the same club. Like, clearly it didn't work. I mean, he wasn't doing horrifically bad considering where he took them from. But yeah, it's just really, really funny. But yeah, I can't see him sort of having any success at either club.
I don't know about you lot, but realistically, Chris Mine probably is the one laughing here. You know, I appreciate that he's a professional footballer and he almost certainly wants to play football. But also, he's on a 4-year contract at a higher thing at Derby. Like, as in, I don't know why he would be like, oh, I'll just leave. He's not going to be like...
To be fair, he probably if they get Gary Rowett in, he probably work quite well in a Gary Rowett system.
Yeah,
he's definitely better than Clayton Donaldson, and he excelled on Gary Rowett.
I think Martin will probably go back to Derby, although I would feel that if we did not get promoted this year, that I would like to keep him.
Oh yeah, I certainly would.
Despite the whatever's gone on, I think you've got to just get on with it. Football's football, is a business, and a lot of the time, we don't know what's gone on, and there was a lot of chat on the different groups about what his sister, or if it wasn't his sister or whatever, was saying about the release clause in his contract. Have you not seen this, Farrell?
No.
Basically, there was a lot of chat that it was someone claiming to be his sister said that the whole scenario began because Fulham had originally agreed to sign Martin on a permanent in January, and when it was decided that it was told that we weren't going to take up that option was when he went on the strike at Reading. And then that's why he signed a contract with Derby, because Fulham had not chosen to sign the contract saying we were going to bring him in as a permanent player. He has a $6 million clause
in the contract on Football Manager, so I mean that might be...
That's it. I mean, whether that's true or not is up for debate. Do you know what I mean? It's not one of those things. I think if we signed him next year on a permanent, then he'd be a Fulham player, and there'd be no more bones about it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, there was riff-raff, but if he scored the goals that would send us back to the Premier League, then I don't think anyone would be complaining.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubting his talent. There's no doubt that he fits into the system. He's done well for us. We could do a hell of a lot worse by, not signing him.
He's almost like clinical goal scorer,
He's got 11 goals.
And he's got a goal, like compared to minutes per goal, I think he's got the best one, and second is Sessegnon.
Yeah, I think you're right. So we'll move swiftly on from Steve McLaren.
At least we don't have to worry of playing Derby in a playoff final anymore.
Yeah, that one's gone out the window. We don't have to worry about hidden agendas and all that kind of stuff. This one's from Andrew, at Andrew WCPT, who says, what result should Fulham fans hope for in the Wednesday versus Reading game this Friday?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much win-win, I feel like. Obviously, the draw is the perfect result, but whatever happens, if we get a result against Wolves, we're going to pick up points against someone. So I think grab a bag of popcorn, sit back and...
enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think draw is the perfect result, really, because I mention all the time, but I'd rather be chasing more teams than chasing one or two. Like, if we're chasing all 3 teams until the end of the season, that'd be great, because then you've got more teams who can slip up. Whereas if you're only chasing Sheffield, or you're only chasing Sheffield and Reading, then there's obviously less teams who could drop out.
Match abandoned due to too many players getting red carded.
I want deducted points.
Yeah.
There we go.
You
just want it to be the biggest brawl of all time.
Yeah.
The Battle of Sheffield.
Yeah, and then we can watch Joshua Klitschko after that. That'll be good.
I'm going to go in on the stats again here and reiterate the point that if they draw, Leeds lose, and we beat Wolves and Blackburn this week, we'll be 4th on goal difference by Saturday at 5 p.m.
God, that just makes everything tingle.
So
God.
There's that to bear in mind. So that's your answer, I think, Andrew. If you're looking one,
we're
going to go
for us
slightly
in the studio because Farrell's tingling.
Yeah, exactly. Pray for anything but those results, so we don't have to deal with the Farrell tingle for too long.
Can we turn down that aircon?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to take a 5-minute break. If that's all right.
Go get a glass of water.
So welcome back to the Fulhamish pod. And our final question for today is from Graham Hill at Whiskey Disregard. Great at. Really like that. He says, if you could draft in one former player from the last 10 games, I think he means one former player for the last 10 games from the last 10 years at their peak, who would it be? And I really like this, #Zesh Raymond.
Well, there's your answer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's done.
Obviously.
You answered that one for us, Graham. Farrell?
I would say, the best Fulham player in the last 10 years, I would say, was Moussa Dembele, as in the first. that would be sort of my pragmatic mind. But I'd love to see like a proper sort of hero-esque type figure, like a Brian McBride or a Boa Morte back in a Fulham shirt.
I would take, especially as I think up front is still the place where firepower is needed most, Andy Johnson. I think he'd do a great job running down the channels. Andy Johnson at his peak, maybe 09-10
He'd
was it?
fit into the system.
Yeah, 08-09. I'd take Andy Johnson. I'm being quite lateral over this thinking.
I'm going Paul Konchesky because we need a left back.
We could do with a left back, you know. You are right.
So that's the only reason. I mean, you could go for obviously Van der Sar.
I was going to go Van der Sar, but he's actually 12 years out of date, I'm afraid. So he's not.
Yeah, I was thinking.
I was going to go for a keeper though. I'd probably go for someone like Antti Niemi.
Oh,
just because actually I just think that someone like
surely
Niemi
Schwarzer.
Schwartz. That's exactly what I was going for. Yeah,
sorry,
correct.
that was my disappointing sigh was for.
Oh right, yeah, no.
Is Mark Crossley 10 years or was he a bit longer?
No, he's a bit longer.
Tony
as well,
Warner.
I'm afraid. Yeah, who was it? Lastuvka.
Yeah, let's talk about Yaroslav Drobny.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think Schwarzer would probably be my answer. So I hope those are correct. Tweet us if you've got any better ideas.
It's a nice range there. We've got a striker, a midfielder, a defender, and a goalkeeper.
Yeah, we just need one more. We've got a five-a-side team there. Quite a good five-a-side team.
That does happen when you have 4 people in the studio picking one player each.
Oh, right. Gang up on me.
Yeah, in fairness. Well, if you have any better answers, and they're not all just Louis Sarr, please let us know on Twitter.
But he's not 10. He'd be.
No, I think he left in 2006.
Nah, before
No,
that, mate.
2004.
Yeah, do your research, mate.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
4 of us in the studio.
I've got a laptop in front of me and I can't remember that one.
Well, that is
you
it.
do the mail then next week, Farrell.
Oh.
So that is the end of this week's podcast. Thank you for listening once again. Bit of a bumper episode this week, but I'm sure you'll forgive us. We had plenty to discuss after the weekend and Tuesday night's antics. This is another busy week for Fulham. A few games in a matter of a few evenings this week at the Cottage as we face Blackburn and Wolves. So do join us on next Monday's podcast as we reflect those games, and I'm sure we'll have even more of an idea of how Fulham stand in this epic chase for the top 6.
And more witty banter from Farrell.
Now he's back in the podcast in his rightful place in the corner, just offering jokes, dropping them left, right and centre. Secretary Jack, can I have a title for today's podcast, please?
You may. We're going to go with, in honour of young Ryan Sessegnon, let's talk about Sess, baby.
Let's talk about Sess, baby.
Thanks, Farrell. That was actually nice. really nicely in tune.
I've been practicing every time, ever since you mentioned it earlier today. It's been stuck in my head. And then it's a bit awkward at work when I was singing it out.
I was going to say, have you muttered it under your breath, like at the canteen or something?
What do you mean under my breath?
Also, in
belting it out.
Actually, it's actually probably not even legal, is it? Let's talk about Sess. Hey.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
There we go.
Hey. Barely legal.
Barely.
Might edit that bit out. Yeah, got a little...
That does not make me tingle. There's no tingling over here from that one.
that again from the name. You got it.
Anyway,
If we had a proper producer, he'd be like, can we just record that bit again, please?
so we a proper producer. I do it for a flipping living. Good name there, Jack. Good name. Very well done. So we'll be back next Monday. Please go give us a like on Facebook and Instagram. Fulhamish Pod is where you can find us. Do go share the podcast with any other Fulham fan or non-Fulham fan. Maybe they're a Sheffield Wednesday, Reading or Leeds fan nervously looking over their shoulder. Share it with them as well and just taunt them a little bit.
Let them know we're coming for them.
Exactly.
And their podcasts.
Like a cavalry charge. We'll be back next Monday with more Fulham discussion. So Jack, Dom and Farrell will see you on Monday.
Toodles.
Laters.
See you later.